This is the Bat Flip Podcast. Now here's your host, Damian, David, and Matt.
Welcome in, everyone, to a Friday episode of the Bat Flip Podcast. Damian and David here with you today. We're going to break down the wildcard round that we had happen and give you our predictions for the Division Series round, as this is the lone off day in between those series. And now we have, I think, starting tomorrow, there's 6 days straight of baseball, 7 days straight of playoff baseball, something like that. So it's intense. And Matt's not here to be our lone guy with his team not in the playoffs. So you're going to have to listen to us talk about our teams for a little bit here and moving forward. But David, we made it through the wild card round.
We did. It was a stressful round. 3-day games was wild. I think, I'm sitting there at work trying to balance doing some work and stressing about playoff baseball, but it was everything playoff baseball is, right? I think just this whole round was a beautiful encapsulation of how different that can be versus regular season baseball, where these the mistakes were so magnified. The managerial decisions were so important. I'm really excited to talk about these rounds because I thought it was a really, really good set of rounds. There was really only one that wasn't particularly close, one non-game 3. That's good stuff. I mean, it was exciting, and my team came out on top. I feel even better about it that way. But even if they hadn't, it was a very, very good set of games earlier this week.
Yeah, I was trying to do what I could to listen to most of the games. I wasn't able to watch it because I have a job that moves around a lot, but you could just feel the intensity of October baseball. It was there. I was lucky enough that my team played later in the night, so I didn't have to worry about it at work. Might not be the case this time. It's going to be really close. I'm going to have a little bit of the game starting as I got a little bit left, but these were some great series that really drew you in throughout it. They were close until they weren't, but you still felt like even though maybe one team pulled away, the other team had a shot to come back. They were really, really fun. So let's kind of start with the series that was the early games most of the day. Let's start with Detroit and Cleveland. Obviously, Cleveland at one point was 15.5 games back, came back to win that division narrowly over Detroit. They had just played each other. We talked about that previewing the series. Game 1 was about everything you could have expected from a guy named Tarek Skubal that you could have ever imagined. He was absolutely disgusting. I still don't know why AJ Hinch pulled him there. They were able to pull that game out, but he was unhittable. It got to the point when they pulled him out, I literally typed in our chat, they're going to lose because of this.
Yep.
And then they tried to lose it. Jose Ramirez in the 9th inning got a ground ball to second base, or shortstop to Javi. And he bounced the throw. Torkelson didn't know the ball got by him and down the baseline. So Jose Ramirez made it all the way over to third with no outs. Mm-hmm. They get, I think, a pop-up for the first out.
Yep.
And then it was like a chopper back to the pitcher, and Jose Ramirez tried to run and then stopped halfway down the baseline, which is probably my biggest irk in baseball. We're if you're caught right in that situation, just make him throw home and tag you out. Don't stop and then let them do a rundown, because you're never going to win a rundown. I've never seen a rundown end good for the runner ever. Yeah.
Rarely. Very rarely.
Very rarely. And then
you have to be Javi Baez to get a rundown to work. Yeah. Just run and slide. We've seen legendary slides happen a lot easier than the good rundown.
Well, we've also seen pitchers just not be able to throw the ball to a base.
Yep.
Right? He could have underhanded it, but he could have threw it over the catcher's head for all we know.
Right.
It's just weird things in baseball that happen, right? Mm-hmm. They're so not micromanaged, but they're so everything is magnifying glass. There
magnified in the magnified in the playoffs.
Yeah. You make them make that mistake. Anyway, so Detroit was able to get game 1 2-1. Cleveland kind of blew open, I think in like the 5th or the 6th in game 2 to take a 6-1 win there. Then game 3, Detroit kind of blew it open a little earlier and took the 6-1 lead. And I think they scored, Cleveland ended up scoring 2 to make it 6-3 there. But what were your thoughts on this series in total?
Yeah, I mean, coming into this playoffs, we've run 3 seasons now of the wild card round with the 3 game set, and the winner of game 1 was 12-0 in winning the series, and there were like 10 sweeps or something. That does get broken later on, but when Detroit won that first game, you could tell the intensity was so ratcheted up in that first game because they had their best pitcher on the mound. It was the only innings he was going to be able to throw in the whole series, and he threw 7.2 nearly perfect innings. I think the only run was on a drop pop fly early in the game. Like, just a really masterful performance from Skubal, but you felt that intensity in that first game because Detroit really didn't have a whole lot behind Skubal, and we knew that. It's not all that dissimilar from last year, but if you have that guaranteed ace-like performance in one game in a series like this, it's very difficult to lose that series. And Detroit knew that, and ultimately, pulls out the series win. I think I was the only one who picked Detroit in our predictions there, but knowing that wasn't you picked him. That's right. It was you picked Detroit. We only had one Detroit pick though, right?
It was me.
So our whole group was not particularly fond of the Tigers, but
no, you were the only one who picked Cleveland. Sorry, Matt and I both picked Detroit.
I was on my own for another one, and I got it right. This is the one I got wrong. But reversing my own history there, but it ultimately works out that when you have that ace performance, right? Yeah. My idea was that Guardians would need to win both the other games against Detroit's mediocre pitching. They won one of them, but they were not able to get both. It's so difficult to string together hits with a lineup like that. I think I didn't even necessarily realize how bad the Guardians lineup was.
Yeah.
Watching them perform after J-Ram hit, it was like, oh boy.
Yeah.
It's just kind of like, where did the talent go?
And then we should also mention that while we're sitting here talking about it, that because their offense was so bad, they called up Chase DeLauder to make his MLB debut in the playoffs.
Yep.
And
he dropped a pop-up.
he dropped a pop-up, but I think that was in game 2, right? He ended up winning. They ended up winning that game, the 6-1 game. Mm-hmm. But it's notorious, right? Like, they have Stephen Kwan, but again, Stephen Kwan's a great player, but in the playoffs, you must have people that can slug, right? It's very hard to string together multiple different hits to score. And that's a lot of where Cleveland kind of their offense came from. They had some homers from Brian Rocchio and Bo Naylor in this series, but like throughout the regular season, that most of their runs came through manufacturing them through small ball and, stringing a couple hits together. You just don't do that in the playoffs, basically. So it's really bad. It's going to be interesting to see what, Cleveland tried to sell at the deadline. There was Stephen Kwan rumors. There was other stuff. It's going to be really interesting to see what that looks like here moving forward to this offseason for them.
Yeah, I mean, very, very interesting scenario for Cleveland. And, they've got the bullpen was good, but it ultimately imploded in that third game, where, it was Hunter Gaddis, one of the more trustworthy relievers. He gave up runs. Yeah. Knowing Cleveland, I mean, they can certainly identify, it's time to move on from Hunter Gaddis. Cade Smith looked pretty shaky in his outing in this series as well.
They did it with Eli Morgan.
Right. And Morgan was horrid for the Cubs this year. Like, Cleveland is pretty sharp on determining when it's time to move on from those guys, and it might be time to move on from a few of these guys.
It is also worth mentioning, obviously, they did lose Clase and Luis Ortiz, who probably would have played a factor somewhere in this series.
Yeah.
We aren't sure what that future of those two are going to look like. It doesn't sound like it's great, but we don't know until we know. So we'll look forward to that. But we'll talk more about Detroit, obviously, when we get to the next series. But let's finish up all the wild card ones first. Let's talk about the Cubs and Padres next. We'll kind of just go in order of how the series played out. So the Cubs, game 1 was it was an intense game.
Man.
Wrigley Field was rocking there. I know San Diego got a run in the second. I wasn't able to see how that one happened. Which one? How did they get that?
Jackson Merrill single and then a Bogarts insta double off the wall, like next pitch off of Boyd.
Gotcha.
It might not have been a single. It might have been.
I think it's double,
but it was double. Oh no, you know what? It was a looper from Merrill. Hit a little one of those like no man's land pop ups and hustle doubled second.
Gotcha.
And then next pitch, Bogarts that went off the wall. So and it was like, Boyd might be in trouble, and Boyd settled in, almost got to 5 innings. I mean, at this point, that's a successful start in the postseason, but it was hairy there for a second with that second inning rally.
Yeah, and then it was really actually good pitched game until the 5th inning, especially for both sides. Nick Pivetta was good, and Boyd was good. And then in the 5th inning, Pivetta gave up a moonshot to Seiya. That thing was gone in a hurry. I was listening to the audio, and I just hear Kevin Brown just start yelling like Seiya Suzuki, like just hit line drive like that. And I was like, dude, what? Like I had to go back and watch the replay. That ball was shot off a cannon from Seiya's bat for a solo homer there. And then followed that up back to back. Carson Kelly hit one to, I think, dead center, wasn't it?
It was right center, but yeah,
right center.
It was it was the same elevated fastball that Pivetta had been beating the Cubs with the whole game. And he said after the game, made a slight adjustment and was able to get under it and smack it out.
Yeah, so it gave them the 2 runs there in the 5th to take a 2-1 lead, and then they ended up scoring 1 in the bottom of the 8th, again to win 3-1 in that game. Game 2 was a game where this is something that David and I had talked about a lot. Well, maybe not on the podcast, but in our chat about what should happen pitching-wise here. I was on the train of, hey, you have to start Shota because the Padres are very left-handed hitting. Even Tatis hasn't been hitting left-handed pitching very well this year. But if you do start Shota, just do not pitch to Manny Machado. You can't pitch to anyone. You can pitch to anyone else. Just do not pitch to that guy with Shota. Let anyone else beat you. Yeah. And they pitched to Manny with Shota, and he hit a 2-run bomb off of Shota as well to give them a 2-run lead in the 5th. Or they scored 1 in the 1st, and then in the 5th is when Machado hit the 2-run homer. 3-0. The Dylan Cease looked really good that game too. He had the Cubs all off sorts. So they ended up taking that game 3-0. And then game 3, the Cubs ended up winning 3-1. They kind of got to Yu Darvish, jumped on him a little bit early there in the 2nd inning, got him rattled, got him pulled in the 2nd inning with bases loaded. They had scored 2. The bullpen for the Padres had been used so much. They had used Morihone all 3 days. They used Mason Miller for 6 or 7 outs.
It was 8 outs, 8 strikeouts or something like that.
Yeah. He was nasty. He was throwing 103. He was absurd. But the bullpen was just kind of gassed at that point, and the offense really kind of didn't have anything else for it. And as Adam says right here, Michael Busch hit a big homer in that game to kind of propel them there. It doesn't matter; they still lost the trade, Adam.
That's right.
Say it louder just for the people in the back.
Just remember, every time Zahir Hope it's a minor league home run, the Cubs lost the trade.
Boom.
Very important.
Just remember that
as Michael Busch is, hitting those playoff home runs. Those don't count.
Yeah, no.
But what counts is those prospect rankings.
Just remember that Jackson Ferris is number 98 on MLB Pipeline.
That's right.
So you lost the trade.
Lost it again.
They
lose it. They lose it all the time.
All the time. If you guys don't know, that is a running joke between especially David and I, but
it comes from
Twitter as well.
Section of Cubs Twitter that was like legitimately pissed about the Michael Busch trade, like when the Zahir Hope's love was getting really crazy at the start of the season. Like there were people who were like pissed that they had traded him for Michael Busch, and it's like, y'all, major league talent is major league talent. Like at the end of the day, Michael Busch has been absolutely spectacular his whole tenure as a Cub right now, and looks like a stellar first baseman in the top 5 or so of major league first baseman right now. So,
well, and it's funny because when that trade happened, I was also very mad that they traded him for 2 minor leaguers. I was like, you got to use him to get some major league pitching or something. And then that happened to be the thing.
We have been on the Michael Busch is good train for years and years.
Yeah.
So that's UNC Tar Heel, Michael Busch.
Listen, people were like, well, they should have kept Michael Busch. And I'm like, who are you benching, Freddie Freeman or Shohei Ohtani? Which one of those two are you benching for Michael Busch to play?
Yeah.
I don't think either one of them.
Busch isn't worse than too many major leaguers, but those are two major leaguers that Michael Busch is worse than.
Yeah. Sorry. Anyway, so the Cubs take this one 3-1, setting up a date with the Milwaukee Brewers in the division series, the division series, which we'll get to in a little bit. Let's talk about the Yankees Red Sox now.
Do we not want to close out the Padres? I think we should probably
let's close out the Padres. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Because this is going to be a very, very interesting offseason for the San Diego Padres. Mm-hmm. They have, I want to say, almost $70 million coming off the books this year.
Yep. And
they also, which is something I didn't know until I was doing some research today, the Eric Hosmer money comes off the books after this year. So that is also another really big key. That's kind of some money in the back thing that you can't put on the field that they've been paying out. But you have King, Cease, Arias, the potential of Darvish. We don't even know. Like that article that was put out the other day by, I think, Kevin Acee from San Diego. It sounds like Darvish knows he's basically done. He's talking about pitching through pain. He's saying how he knows his arm can go at any moment, how he's very emotional with it. He's still got like 4 years left on that contract or something.
Yeah.
You're going to have Robert Suarez potentially opting out. There's a plethora of moves that the Padres need to do, and they don't really have a deep farm system.
They anymore. Not anymore. Yeah. I want to note also that the loss of Ramon Laureano, I think, was a gigantic factor in this series. He was raking to close the season out. A fantastic trade that was by AJ Preller that really propelled San Diego to almost having a shot to take over the number 1 seed of the wild card and put this series in San Diego, where again that would have made a gigantic like impact to this. It could have changed the series completely. And the fact that Laureano didn't make it to this series, he was hurt. Huge, really changed the dynamic of that lineup, because it would have been so much more right-handed, a lot more scariness coming off the bench when the Cubs move over to the righties. Like you would have been able to pinch hit like a Sheets into Andrew Kittredge or Brad Keller, and it changes the dynamic there. So like the Padres were set up for success, and I think the injury bug might have changed the series. I mean, it was so close. One more note that I do want to hit on is there were 4 replay-ish bad call style things there in game 3, and I think we would be remiss if we don't touch on those. There was a play at home that the Cubs would have gone up 3-0 at the time. Nico Horner slid into home. The call was out in the moment. Ump is literally sitting there staring at the play, and Nico's hand goes under the glove before the glove hits him. There were 2 angles shown. None of them were at field level, and Nico's hand was over the base before, but we really didn't know whether his hand was hitting the base, and it kind of looked like it. If we just had a field level shot, we would know. They had more shots of second base when PCA stole second in the 9th inning. I think top of the 9th, bottom of the 8th, one of those. It was bottom of the 8th. And they had all the shots of PCA's arm being like slightly off the bag as Cronenworth was like tagging him off the bag. And it was one of those replays that was minute details of where they were, and it changed the outcome because they were able to overturn the call. And that's where I'm like, well, it feels like we were missing an angle on that home plate one. And then Xander Bogaerts struck out in the 9th inning on a call that was looking a little bit low. Jeff Passan made an instant tweet about it. There's
a lot of people made instant tweets.
There was a lot of, Jeff Passan's one of those guys who's usually pretty cool about stuff like that. But I mean, like I'm of the mindset that it almost looked like the ump brung Bogaerts up because Bogart started walking to first before waiting for him to make the call. Is almost what it looked like, which is it's wrong, but it'll be good to get ABS.
It will be good to get ABS. The problem that I have, and it's the conversation we had earlier this morning, is that the strike zone on the TV looked like it was very low, right? The ball was very low. You go to some Major League Baseball metrics, you look up that pitch, it says well below the strike zone, ball. You go to other ones, and it says, it nipped the corner, it's a strike. Now, who's right, who's wrong, I don't know.
Yeah.
But we need to know with the ABS system, which strike zone are you using? Because both of these entities are hooked to Major League Baseball. They're apparently pulling all of Major League Baseball data, right? If you're going to be using the ABS system, as we will be next year, what are you using? And that box on the TV, if you're going to keep it, which I know there's a lot of people that hate it, it needs to be the box of what the actual ABS system is going to be.
I actually got a reply from Lance Brozdowski earlier today because he asked about it. He was like, did you guys want to have the box on the screen? And I said, no, I don't think I want the box off that's the TV broadcasts. I think in universally, because we have the challenge system coming next season, take the box off. Let us guess with the players. Let us say, hey, you should challenge that. That feels like a strike. We get the challenge. We see the result. Bang. We know what the strike zone is, right? It's more rewarding that way to play along with the players. Lance had asked, should broadcast remove because the on-screen K zones are inaccurate? And I said, yeah. And he said he also agrees. He's cool without doing it. Like, let's just watch baseball the way we watched it for, I don't know, 80 years before we ever had, the technology to throw the K zone up on the screen. Like, let's just not bother with that. I don't need to know.
It's also kind of weird when like a broadcast messes up and they take the strike zone off the TV, and then you're like, man, that's weird. But like at the same time, you remember like this. I like this.
It's so nice, right? And then you're playing the baseball game happens like a baseball game actually happens.
Yeah.
On the field. They don't have a box on the field. They are playing with what the umpire is calling. And so then if you understand, like the umpire is giving the pitcher this spot, the pitchers will always go back to that spot. And then you are saying, okay, well, that's a strike. The umpire said that's a strike. But if you're watching it with a box and the box is saying it's a ball, you're going to get furious. You wouldn't be furious if there was no box.
I think that first, I don't care if you have the box or not. I don't mind it, whatever. But if you're going to have it, you need to make it be the box of of the box that is going to be used for those systems. Like plain and simple. Make the screen, what's on the screen, be what you're looking at, so fans are rightfully justified in their thinking as well.
I'm also with this. Yeah, from Adam. Yeah. How do we not have an extra shot of that home plate? Again, if Nico's hand was hovering, he was out, and if his hand was on the ground, it was safe. But we need to know which that is, and how don't we have that angle? I don't know. Ultimately, I think that call and the Bogarts call offset. Game result is as it is. Cubs win. I'm happy. Padres fans are not. I understand. But again, there were multiple calls in that game that could have gone the other way, that could have changed the outcome. The result happens. It is what it is, unfortunately. And I'm glad we have ABS next season to fix that.
Which is we haven't actually got to talk about that on the pod because it's been playoff time. So we'll have to talk about that fully in the off season.
Right.
But we're already 25 minutes into this. Jeez, we need to get to the other two real quick.
Oh, good. We'll go.
Let's go to the Red Sox Yankees now. This is a series in the Bronx, rivalry, obviously going to be very, very criticized. But game one, Garrett Crochet did Garrett Crochet things. He's so good. He gave up a run to the Yankees in the second on, was it the Volpe homer? But they got the fastball. He turned around on it. But after that, he locked it down, basically. The Red Sox were down 1-0. We're able to get to the seventh, score 2 runs there. And then they got another one in the ninth as an insurance run to get the 3-1 win there. Off of Luke Weaver is where they scored those 2 runs in the seventh. We talked about the Yankees bullpen was kind of an issue, we thought, moving forward. And Weaver blew up in this game. I think even Bednar gave up that 1 run in the ninth, I want to say. And then Chapman locked it down there. Game 2 was a really close game, back and forth. This was a game. Brian Bayo got lit up early, got 2 runs, 2 1/3, but 4 hits. Didn't have his swing and miss stuff that day. Not even really his kind of ground ball stuff. And then Carlos Rodon looked good early. And then say early, but then in the third, he gave up 2 runs there. But it was just a stark contrast difference of like, it didn't feel like those 2 runs he gave up were bad runs. Like, I don't know how to say it. Like, you understand when a pitcher's pitching bad and he gives up runs, and when a pitcher's pitching good and just acts like gives up a couple runs there.
Right.
It felt like Rodon was pitching good, and the Red Sox were able to get the 2 runs there, tie the game back up, which was massive at the time. Then they went back and forth in the 5th and the 6th again. Yankees bottom of the 5th got a run. Red Sox came back top of the 6th, got another run. We're like, all right, here we go. This is the back and forth. And then Garrett Whitlock ended up giving up the run in the 8th, which has been one of the most trusted relievers out of that Red Sox pen. I think they had said like 13 games in a row he'd been scoreless or something up until that point. Gave up the 1 run. Bednar was able to close that game out. The Yankees win 4-3 in game 2. Then game 3, and I think all we need to say for game 3 is Cam Schlittler.
Oh my goodness.
That was one of the best pitched playoff games, if not best pitched games ever, for being a rookie and going into obviously it's at home, but Yankees, Red Sox, that environment, win or go home type game. And what did Cam Schlittler do? Oh, just 8 innings, 5 runs or 5 hits, 12 strikeouts, scoreless.
Yep.
I said 5 runs, but I meant 5 hits. Just dominated them. 107 pitches. It just broke the Red Sox hearts, and all of their hope in that game just went by the wayside almost immediately.
Yeah, what a dominant performance. And the Yankees pitching, we talked about it being I think it was kind of the key to the series.
Yeah.
Whether or not the Yankees pitching would show up, it did. Red Sox, I mean, they felt the absence, right? We talked about the absence of Ramon Laureano. The absence of Roman Anthony changes the dynamic of that Red Sox lineup, right? I mean, even Anthony hits everybody. He's not just like a platoon guy. He can go out there and start against Max Fried and potentially be a different impact bat in that game, but that's the game they won, right? So, Rodon, right, Schlittler, like they had one less really dangerous hitter to face against, and then you think about the Devers trade too, like they got here in spite of trading Rafael Devers midseason. Now
and
they're
not
back
having Roman Anthony.
Yeah, and not having Roman Anthony. Yeah, so this team was down pretty significantly from what it was to start the year back when you and I were both very high on this Red Sox team at the beginning of the season. Thought they had a chance to go, to the World Series and stuff. And where we were now, like I felt very confident in picking the Yankees for this series. And you stuck with the Red Sox, and they were in it. But they became the first team in this wild card era to win the first game and lose the series. And it was really about that starting pitching in the first round. Remember that the trade deadline, they weren't able to not lock down a trade for a starter.
No.
And they had signed, their big signing was Walker Buehler.
Well, they traded.
He got DFA'd.
Yeah.
Lucas Giolito wasn't able to go in this series either.
Yeah.
He was hurt. But that's kind of a risk we have with Lucas Giolito. He's always battled injuries. The Red Sox were they were one arm shy of being able to, I think, get to this series despite the offensive losses and woes, which is, it shows how close they were, but now they're going to go, Bregman's going to go back to free agency. They're going to have some holes to fill. They've got a ton of holes in the rotation. They're going to be a dangerous team when it comes to the offseason with regards to free agency and trades, because obviously they were last year with Garrett Crochet. So, what a great call that was. I wish my team had done it, but unfortunately, Garrett Crochet no longer pitching in the postseason.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see what the Red Sox do. I think they have a ton of different avenues they could go, right? Do they go and like, hey, we got to bring back Bregman. We need to get another bat. We need to obviously work on the pitching, but there's also the side of like, well, we didn't have Tristan Casas. If he comes back, what does that look like? We didn't have Roman Anthony. What does that look like? We were down Marcelo Mayer. There's also with the talk about like maybe potentially trading Jarren Duran, especially if you get some pitching back for him. If only there was a team that needs maybe an out left fielder next year that has a bunch of starting pitching that you could potentially trade Jarren Duran to. Might fit up very well. Who knows? But what do you do? Do you keep Duran? If you do, then what does the rest of your outfit look like? What do you do with Rafaela? What do you do with Anthony? What do you do with Willie Abreu? All of that. There's a ton of different avenues that this Red Sox team can. Yeah, Yoshida. They very, very much though need some pitching to go with Garrett Crochet. There's going to be some starters out there.
Yeah.
But they also had the ability to go sign a big starter this last offseason to go with Crochet, and they didn't do that either.
Do it. Right.
So we'll see. They are also a team that could be involved in a trade if we see a Sandy trade or if we see a Mitch Keller trade. They were very interested in those guys too. So,
Yep.
yes, Adam, we will hear you out, World Series team. But as David preferenced, this team looks very different than what it did when the season began. When I think it was very fair to say that they were a World Series contender at that point.
And again, they made it this far with a team that I think is much worse than the team we thought would head to the World Series at the beginning of the year. A team without Rafael Devers, rather simply, is not as good of a team as a team with Rafael Devers. So
big if true. But real quick, also, we didn't look at the prediction for the San Diego Cubs.
Oh.
You had the Cubs. Matt and I both had the Padres there. And then in this one, you and Matt both had the Yankees. I had the Red Sox. So let's go to the quick series of the two, and we can wrap this one up probably a lot quicker than we did the other ones. It's the Dodgers versus the Reds. This was a Dodgers shelling. I think we kind of talked about it early. Or on the Monday episode, I was fearful of facing the starting pitching in this matchup because I was like, they're going to throw Hunter Green, they're going to throw Nick Lodolo, and they're going to throw Andrew Abbott, right? They threw Hunter Green, who apparently was tipping his pitches because the Dodgers offense kind of teed off on him. Like Shohei hit 2 homers, Teoscar Hernandez hit 2 homers. It was just Tommy Edman hit a homer, right? Like they were kind of teeing off on him. Once it got to the bullpen, they didn't really do as much as I thought they were because that was kind of the weak point there. The Dodgers starting pitching, though, Blake Snell looked incredible in that game. They got to the bullpen. Bullpen tried to make it interesting for LA in game 1. Then game 2, Dodgers obviously going Yoshinobu Yamamoto. Obviously, the Reds were starting Zach Littell game 2, right? Yeah. Who would have thought that? They have a left-handed dominant lineup. You have 2 lefty starters. Let's start the righty, who has had like a 5 ERA since we traded for him. I don't know what they were doing there with Zach Littell. Then they ended up bringing in Nick Lodolo, and he pitched for 1 inning. And then they just continued to move past that. Never threw Andrew Abbott, who was an all-star for them this year, who was probably their second best starting pitcher, who pitched very well against the Dodgers this year. And they didn't throw that guy in the games. And the Dodgers won 10-5 in the first game, 8-4 in the second game. The bullpen also made game 2 pretty interesting. There was at one point the Reds had the tying run out to the plate after being up big too. So yeah, we all predicted this one to be over in, I think you picked it in 2, Matt picked it in 2, I picked it in 3. I thought the Reds would steal one of those games because I was expecting a Andrew Abbott to pitch. But we all expected the Dodgers to win this series. I don't think that was a question really, but what does this mean for the Reds? Where do they go?
I mean, this is, honestly, this feels even more like a Mets loss than it does a Reds loss, right? I mean, because the Mets should have been here. They should have been the one getting clobbered by the Dodgers. Let's be real. The fact that they couldn't, and a team that showed up like this, like the Reds they weren't really even in the game. They really weren't. It wasn't very close. And I think back to, all the times we were kind of like, well, the Reds, the Mets need to get starting pitching, and it never worked out. Like all those rants we've been on about them, and here they are, and the Reds showed up and got blown out in 2 games. I really dislike Tito Francona not using Andrew Abbott in game 2, and that is a very, very bad bit of managing. Your best pitchers have to pitch, and I understand going to Hunter Green in game 1. He's been your best pitcher all year. But he is not going to be, he's just not as good into this Dodgers lineup. The guys who are going to be good into this Dodgers lineup are going to be Lodolo and Abbott. And so I thought, maybe you lose that game 1. If you're going to win games 2 and 3, it has to be Abbott. It has to be Lodolo. It has to be those guys. And you win or lose with those starting pitchers, because you have it was probably the 3rd or 4th best rotation in the playoffs here. And maybe your offense could scratch across a couple of runs or against Yamamoto and then find a way against the Dodgers bullpen, because it's clear the Dodgers bullpen was, still shaky. But I mean, they took themselves out of the games like right at the beginning, and you just can't do that in the playoffs. You could tell with all these other series, everything was so close. Everything was so tightly managed. The best players were playing for every single team except the Reds. The Reds' second best player, Andrew Abbott, didn't even play in the series. Like, the Padres threw Mason Miller's arm off. Morejon threw 3 days, like in a row. It's just like Andrew Abbott probably should have thrown 3 days in a row if you wanted to win the series. But like, it's just he never even threw once.
Yeah,
that I have a big problem with. Like at the end of the day, I'd like to see more from the Reds, but we know their ownership isn't going to change their ways. We know they're not going to buy them offense. We know they're not going to extend Ellie. Like they're going to be in this continuous cycle, and you can't waste opportunities like this, giving guys like Zach Littell the start instead of your talented youngsters.
Yeah, I'm going to be interested to see what the Reds team does this offseason because we know the young pitching. We know Hunter Green. We know Nick Nodola. We know Andrew Abbott. Chase Burns is right there. You still have Rhett Lauder. You're going to have young pitching. You have depth in the infield. Some prospects there and some young guys. What do you do there? I think you got to find some way to package somebody to go get a good bat for this lineup. They need someone else back there to help protect Ellie. I think a reason you saw Ellie have a down year is because there was no one really protecting him. Right? Yeah. He has his own issues. He has a swing and miss. He has his stuff, but you need someone there to protect him because people are going to say, don't let Ellie beat me. Let anyone else in this lineup beat you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And Ellie gets the best lefties out of the bullpen. He gets all the best looks. I think it's probably a big righty bat that they need, but on top of that, a lot of those guys had like sophomore slumps. Matt McClain was terrible all season. It's just they need more from the young guys, but if even more than that, if you aren't sure those young guys can become good players, move on. Like you're the Reds, you package up 4 or 5 of those guys, find a really good player, even if it's just 1 or 2 seasons, and go for it. But it got to have that internal self-scouting, I think, to figure out who's going to stay and who's going to go. Is I think the important crossroads the Reds are going to hit this offseason.
All right, so let's move ahead to talking about the division series rounds. So let's kind of go across the top, and then we'll jump back down and go that way. So let's start with the Detroit and Seattle series. Seattle won this season series 4-2. They swept in Detroit. They had one in Seattle there. Detroit is obviously at a big disadvantage here, not having Skubal go game 1, which is very interesting. They're going pitching chaos. Skubal will go game 2, but Seattle, this is where things are getting a little interesting. They're going George Kirby game 1 and then Luis Castillo game 2, not throwing Logan Gilbert and not throwing Brian Wu, who I believe I know there was the injury scare, but I think he ended up being okay, if I'm not mistaken. Do you remember?
So I had asked, I kind of asked it into the ether on Twitter and got a reply from a Mariners fan. And I was like, yes, very nice. You know what's going on, because I do not. They want Wu is good. He's going game 4. They want Castillo at home.
Makes sense.
Is the strategy here? Gilbert, they're okay with Gilbert and Wu going on the road in Detroit. They want Luis Castillo pitching at home. Yeah, I think for those guys, it's good. They're going to pitch no matter what, basically.
Yeah.
It's because I think Seattle feels pretty confident they're going to win at least one of these first 2 games. But they're going to get the better version of Luis Castillo at home, try to hide him in the Mariners ballpark. I think that makes a lot of sense. Now that I think about it, I'm like, I mean, a home version of Castillo is probably equally as good as a road version of Gilbert or Wu. So might as well just roll with it. Yeah, he's your 4th best starter, but he's probably the 2nd best starter on a whole lot of the playoff teams we've seen so far. So especially for the Tigers.
I think my only problem is that if throwing Gilbert and Wu games 3 and 4 basically eliminates them from a potential game 5. And
I'm okay with that.
If I were to get to a game 5, I would want to have one of those 2 in there. I'm a big George Kirby fan. Everyone knows this. He's solid in Seattle there. But if my season's on the line, I want to have one of my 2 horses that are absolutely flat out dominant, especially at home, on the hill for that game. Not saying it gets there, but just in case it does, I wouldn't want to burn those guys. I would much rather die with Logan Gilbert or Brian Wu pitching a second time in a series. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm with you, but if Seattle's starting pitching doesn't go, this team will not go far.
Yeah.
So even if you get to game 5 and if you're in a situation where you're in game 5 and you're like, dang, should have saved Brian Wu for game 5. The Seattle wasn't going to win game 5 anyway. Like that's
Well,
where I'm at.
It's
like,
not save them for game 5.
Yeah. Have them available for game 5.
Have them available for game 5. We're like I would rather take 2 Brian Wu starts or 2 Logan Gilbert starts in this series, in a short series and must win, than 2 George Kirby or 2 Luis Castillo starts. And that's my point. I am fine if you want Castillo to be at home, fine. Go Logan Gilbert, Castillo, then go Kirby and Wu. Or if like Logan Gilbert or Brian Wu has to start game 1, and then you can do Castillo game 2, because it leaves you the option of that one guy being available for game 5 if it gets there. Right now, if it gets to game 5, you don't have either of those 2. You're stuck having to use Kirby or Castillo in that moment, basically.
Yeah, I think it's ultimately kind of down the middle. Like I if you're Seattle, you need all 4 of these guys to be great in order to go far in this playoffs. And if they are great, this is the best rotation in the playoffs. So, it is go as they go for this group. And as much as I get it, like I'd much rather prefer it. I think this is a lot of vote of confidence in George Kirby too, like kind of a vote for the metrics, if you will, because that George Kirby, despite a 4.21 ERA this season, has been a much better pitcher than that. It's been a little bit of sequencing, a little bit of defense, and he's got a 3 some odd FIP. The strikeouts are there, the walks are not bad. Like he's a really solid pitcher. Being able to take a guy like Logan Gilbert, who gets a lot of whiff, that takes a lot of that randomness of contact out of his game, and put him on the road where he gets the more of the whiff. I think that makes sense to me.
I understand it. Like even if you look at the splits for Kirby, I understand it. It's a 3.38 ERA at home and a 5.16 on the road, right? Yeah. But I also don't think Detroit is any typical road ballpark to hit in. Like it's also a very pitcher-friendly park. But regardless, I think Seattle still wins this series. I don't even remember what I put them in. Let me look it up. I know I put it on the thing already. I think it was 4. I want to say that I picked. I think Detroit steals the Scooble game is what I was kind of my thinking there.
I think that might be the other reason they're going Castillo game 2. They know Scooble's going game 2. Let's just play our best hands in the games. We expect to have the advantage offensively. I really like Eugenio Suarez, Julio Rodriguez, Cal Raleigh, obviously all 3 of those guys to make big impacts. Josh Naylor to make a big impact in this series. I like the offense for Seattle a lot, and after this trade deadline, I feel like it's in a spot that'll win a lot of games in this series with the offense. They might even be able to get to Scooble. That might be a little much, but this is a group that is well equipped for the playoffs. We talked about earlier, right? You have to hit for power. This group is going to hit for power. I like where they are. I feel very confident in Seattle going far in this series. Obviously, this is a organization that has never won a World Series. Would be really cool to see it happen one of these years, and this is one of the best chances for them as the 2 seed. I will be taking Seattle in 4 games. I am right with you. I think they lose the Scooble game, but I think they've set up to lose the Scooble game. They will be pitching these starters deep into these games, trusting them. I'm excited to see it, and then they've got a whole lot of really strong bullpen options. I'm excited to see Andres Munoz get involved. I'm excited to see Matt Brash get involved. Gabe Spire is very good.
Yeah.
They are well equipped to go far in this playoffs. This is a very well-built team and should be a World Series favorite going forward.
So we all picked them in 4 in this series. So watch us be absolutely wrong and like the Tigers sweep or something.
Can't wait.
It's just this is the ultimate all across the board. You guys pick that, you're gonna lose. All right, so let's talk about LA and Philly. Because I might be biased here, but I think this is the best matchup in this round. I think these are the 2 best teams in the side here. I think this series is going to be an absolute dogfight, back and forth. we disagree a little bit on how the semantics of this series go.
Mhm.
I think that the offenses are very close. I think it's probably an edge to the Dodgers right now, but there's also the caveat of what is Will Smith? We aren't sure if he's going to be able to play or catch. What is Tommy Edman, right? Because he was a big postseason hero for them last year. He hit the homer in the Red Series, but he was almost immediately pulled after that, and he didn't play game 2 because his ankle is basically hanging on right at this moment. And he's not going to play outfield, and they aren't sure if he's going to be in the lineup any day because he's too much pain.
Mhm.
Philadelphia has their own stuff, right? JT Realmuto has not been good recently. Trey Turner missed a big chunk of the year. He was activated like the last day before the series or before the season ended. He played in their inter squad game. That's that. I think the offenses are close. I think probably a slight edge to LA at the moment, but I think it's close. Would you agree?
I would. I want to note though that the one advantage the Phillies have is that they have I'm gonna go ahead and state it, the best left-handed postseason hitter of all time in Kyle Schwarber. He is, I'm hoping he hits a couple more homers because he's getting up there into the Manny Ramirez caliber of all-time postseason homer leaders, which is the top. I think so, like 29 is like the lead, and he's at 21 right now.
Yeah.
Kyle Schwarber is extremely dangerous. He is the X factor for the Phillies, but to me, it's the Dodgers have guys that have been doing it for years, and they have guys that rolled through the playoffs last year, and we've seen this matchup before in the playoffs. I think this is kind of where you almost want to see. You almost didn't want to see this matchup, right? Because these feel like probably the two best teams, like you said, and the Phillies got a good starting rotation, but I'm still very confident that the Dodgers can pull it off because I trust Shohei Ohtani, I trust Freddie Freeman, Mookie Betts. Like this, the Dodgers group is extremely well built. We saw like Roki Sasaki come out of the pen. He might get more trust, more leverage in this Phillies series. And the Dodgers lefties, I think, in the bullpen are going to be a big key because they're going to have to work around Schwarber, Harper. Going to be a tough assignment.
I think the Dodgers starting rotation has an edge right now, especially given the fact that they don't have Zach Wheeler. Obviously, big loss there. Christopher Sanchez is amazing. He's great. The pitching matchups in this series are insane. You have Shohei Ohtani versus Christopher Sanchez. Then you have Blake Snell versus one of probably Jesus Luzardo or Ranger Suarez. I'm assuming it's probably Luzardo just because he's a little bit more trustworthy at the moment, where Rangers had some blowups recently. And then game 3 is Yamamoto versus probably Ranger Suarez or that other pitcher between those two. Game 4 would be Tyler Glasnow versus probably Aaron Nola. Yeah. It's either Aaron Nola or Walker Buehler, one of the two. Walker Buehler getting a postseason start in Dodger Stadium in October against the Dodgers would be kind of electric given his postseason success. But I think the starting pitching matchup is for the Dodgers. I think where we disagree the most is the bullpen.
Yeah.
Because I have watched the Dodgers bullpen since basically this beginning of September, midway through September, really, though. They have been very bad recently. And it's not just one guy's been bad, like, hey, Tanner Scott has 10 blown saves this year. And it's like, yeah. But it's been like Alex Vesia. I was talking to a friend, and I literally told him a couple nights. It was during the Diamondback series, and one reliever blew up. And they were like, what's your reliever trust chart right now? Like, who would you trust? And I was like, my top guy would be Alex Vesia, and then second would probably be Will Klein, right? Like, out of all the names, like, Will Klein would be my second trustworthy guy. The next day, Alex Vesia blows a 3-run lead. And I'm like, all right, there we go. Like, to me, looking at it right now, the Dodgers have the talent. Do not get me wrong. They have the talent. If these off days, they find a reset, they find some stuff, they work on it, they absolutely can go off here. But given what I've seen for the past basically month, watching this team day in and day out, I think the Phillies have probably the 4 most trustworthy bullpen arms in this series.
What are those 4? Because I'm sitting here looking at it and I see 2 that are better than the Dodgers. And that's
Duran.
First off, who is the best? Who is the best reliever in this series?
Yes.
And then
it's probably Matt Strahm.
Matt Strahm,
especially knowing that it's lefties.
He's
there.
Yep.
I probably trust David Robertson.
David Robertson had a 6.10 ERA in September.
David Robertson he's 40 something years old, and he has
he's 40 years old. Yeah,
he has a notorious postseason history. You get David Robertson in these matchups, it's fine. Ryan Kirkring, he has been really good against a team like the Dodgers, and we've seen him do very good in the playoffs before as well.
5.19 ERA in September.
Yeah, sure.
I think
I've seen him do this. And
the Phillies have two guys that are better than all the Dodgers.
And it's a very underrated name, but he's the guy who has destroyed the Dodgers, Tanner Banks, another lefty. Tanner Banks is really good.
Now that could be the case, but I do think if David Robertson pitches in this series to any of the Dodgers left-handed hitters, including Ohtani, the ball will be leaving Dodger Stadium. So,
I mean,
the Phillies are going to need the rotation, I think, to succeed, to win this series. They need to go basically straight from Sanchez, Luzardo, Nola, Suarez, straight to the Strom, Banks, Duran pocket.
You can make the same argument for LA, though. It's like you have to go Yamamoto, Snell, Ohtani, but then it's like, okay, well, who are you going to?
Straight Phillies, like Trinan, maybe like Scott against the lefties.
But Scott hasn't been good against the lefties even. Yeah. Trinan, he's had a couple good games where they apparently fixed his arm angle, but you don't trust it. See, my point is like Philly can do, because especially with the day offs in between, they can go starter to Duran for the first 3 games of this series and end it. Starter to Strom, Duran, first 3 games of the series, end it. The Dodgers, it's like, okay, well, we know Ohtani's probably going to go 6 innings. That leaves you 3 innings to cover the bullpen. We saw against the Reds, who we notoriously have talked about, their offense is not that good. The bullpen tried to give up both of those games. Mm-hmm. Who do you trust saying, hey, Shohei, get me 6? Which combination, let's say 3 relievers, are you trusting in the Dodgers bullpen to go get you 9 outs in Philadelphia for 2 games?
Yeah. I tell you what I'd probably consider.
Probably none.
I'll tell you what I'd probably consider if I was the Dodgers right now. I'd probably lock Emmett Sheehan, Roki Sasaki, and maybe another like starter.
But here's the thing.
Into those leverage relief roles.
Sheehan just gave up 2 runs in his relief. He didn't even get out of an inning against the Reds. He gave up 2 runs.
That's tough.
Oh, hey, Robleski, Shohei threw 5 no-hit innings against this Philly team in mid-September. What did Robleski do? Came in and gave up 5 earned runs right away. Blew the game. Right? There's no reliever. Tanner Scott gave up they had a save chance, gave up a homer to, I think, was it Weston? What's the name? I don't even know the name. Weston Kemp or Weston Wilson or
Weston Wilson. Yeah.
Weston Wilson gave up a freaking go-ahead homer to Weston Wilson.
Yeah.
It's
a bad situation.
It's a bad situation. I don't trust this bullpen at the moment given right now. The only little sliver of hope is that Roki Sasaki just turns into Yohan Duran, basically, for this portion. He could.
He's got the stuff to do that. Like, in fact, he's got exactly the pitch mix to do
exactly. That's what I'm saying. He could turn into Yohan Duran, sure, but you aren't sure what the other relievers are going to be, right? And he hasn't shown. There's a difference in pitching in a 4-run game in LA against Cincinnati, and there's a difference in pitching in maybe a 1 or 2-run game in Philadelphia.
Against Kyle Schwarber and Bryce Harper. Yeah.
In that crowd, that environment.
2 of the best postseason hitters of all time. Yeah.
That's the craziest environment in postseason baseball too. Yeah. Like that's the thing we have to think about, right?
Yeah, it's gonna be
so I am leaning Philly in 5. I think this is a dogfight. I think it goes back and forth. I think that it probably splits in both. I think the Dodgers take 1 in Philly, 1 in LA. I think it goes back to Philly, and I think they take Game 5 in Philly. I think it's going to be close, but I don't have any faith in the bullpen of LA right now to consistently keep up.
I hear you, but this is also where the heroes are made. I think that a hero is made out of the Dodgers bullpen. Somebody figures it out, suddenly gains David Roberts' trust, and locks in. It might be Roki, which would be a whale of
Clayton Kershaw.
It might be Clayton Kershaw. It might be Clayton Kershaw. What an advantage that would be. How perfectly symbolic to be struggling as a starter in the playoffs and lock in as a reliever when it's needed for the Dodgers. Somebody will be a hero for the Dodgers in that bullpen. But I think you've swayed me from 4 games to 5 for sure. Because this series is between two teams that are just so close.
Yeah.
The offenses are so closely entwined. The best hitters are lefty, right? But you've got the really good contact righty hitters on both teams. It's very even and balanced, but I do think the Dodgers lineup is a little bit deeper, and I think the Dodgers starting rotation is just a little bit deeper without Zach Wheeler. And I think that's the difference for me is like the Phillies are missing a Zach Wheeler that can put them over the top in that advantage in the starting rotation. Where they do have the advantage is the bullpen, but again, I don't know if there's anybody I trust besides Yohan Duran and Matt Strahm. So
might be all you need.
It might be all you need, but I don't know if you can rely on that. So I'm going to stick Dodgers in 5 until they prove me wrong. I'm just going to keep picking them. We'll see what happens after the series, but yeah, this is definitely the one that we spent the most time on because it's certainly the best, I think the most exciting matchup in terms of marquee names.
Yeah.
Matt
also has the Dodgers in 4 there. So let's move over to talking about the 2 division matchups now that we have here. Let's start with the Yankees and the Blue Jays. The season series was 8-5 for Toronto. They won 6 games in Toronto. They only won 2 in New York. Seems like a very home matchup. The pitching is what's going to be really interesting in this series. The Blue Jays are starting Kevin Gausman for game 1 versus Luis Gil for the Yankees in game 1. Game 2 is where it kind of gets interesting because it's going to be Max Fried for game 2, Carlos Rodon for game 3, and then Cam Schlittler for game 4 for the Yankees. The Blue Jays, we don't quite know. There's been some talk that it might be Trey Savage in game 2, starting him at home. He's only had 3 career starts, 14 innings pitched. They've been good, but wanting him to get a start at home rather than trying to start in Yankee Stadium. That would leave Shane Bieber for game 3, and then probably some version of Max Scherzer or Chris Bassett for game 4. Also, there's the possibility that Bo Bichette's not in this series as well.
That's bad.
So with all of that being said, I'm not going to dive too much into this. I'm just going to say my prediction because I have the Yankees sweeping this series. I have the Yankees taking it in 3.
All right.
I believe the way their pitching lines up, I think they can get to Gausman. I trust their offense a lot more than the Blue Jays, right? Yeah. I liked the Red Sox over them. The Red Sox had owned them this year. I liked Garrett Crochet. I like that stuff. But in this matchup, I lean the Yankees here.
I get to do the Lee Corso. Not so fast, my friend. Because here's the thing that I think has been underrepresented by the entire country because the Blue Jays play in Canada. Yep. And we don't know a whole ton about them every single year. They have so many scrappy little postseason hero David Eckstein type of players on that team, man. Did you know that Nathan Lukes? Let me get the numbers. Nathan Lukes hit 12 home runs this season with a 103 WRC plus and played plus defense.
Yep.
I had never heard of Nathan Lukes until the other day when I looked him up. Addison Barger hit a big home run this last week to put them over the top and get them to win the division. Ernie Clement has been extremely good for the Blue Jays. He's their version of Luis Arias. He just doesn't strike out at all. It's like 275, 280, going to be one of those contact-oriented guys. Yeah, and he plays good defense. He plays good defense everywhere. He probably will be in the shortstop spot instead of Bo Bichette. They've got George Springer had a phenomenal season for this Blue Jays team. He is a postseason star. Back in the day with the Astros, trash can understood. But Springer had other postseasons that were extremely good around that. So my belief is that this Blue Jays team has what it takes to take it to the Yankees. Not only that, they have done it, and they have the home field advantage. I think that the Blue Jays win all 3 in Toronto, lose both in New York, and that's the series. I think it's Blue Jays in 5. I hadn't even picked this series yet because I was kind of waiting to see what it looked like. But I trust Kevin Gausman with my life. I think that guy is an absolute ace. He's going to come out and shove in the playoffs. The Yankees' best hitters are all righty. I mean, he's got to beat Cody Bellinger and Ben Rice as lefties, maybe Jazz Chisholm.
Yes.
I think he can do it. He's got the splitter to go away from those guys. Yeah, I got Kevin Gausman easy. The big question is definitely the pitching behind Gausman, but they've been able to perform well. And if they believe in Yi Savage and he pulls it off, that's one of those things where I always talk about, like, I'm expecting, like, for a story, Yi Savage shoving against the Yankees sure would be a story. So yeah, I think it's Jays in 5. I think this is a really good back and forth series. And we see some of those guys, those unsung heroes for the Blue Jays, really make a name for themselves where on the national stage finally, where they can kind of, show what they've got. You've also got Vladdy in this series, by the way, too, to match up with Judge. Like, you've got some really big names on the Blue Jays side. I'm going to say that is contingent on Bo Bichette playing. Yeah. If there's no Bo Bichette, I think that does lower my expectations to Yankees in 5. But for now, I'll assume Bo's going to figure out how to get on the field, and the Jays win in 5.
Yeah, Matt also has the Yankees in 4 here. Let me preference. I would be very happy to be wrong here. Yeah. I think Toronto is one of the best playoff environments, if not the best playoff environment. I know I said Philly, but Philly's probably the hardest to play in there.
Yeah, there's a lot of the remaining environments are all excellent. We're down to great environments. Yes, the Brewers environment is good. I know.
Yeah, so it's going to be very interesting to see that. So let's jump over to the other division matchup and
you guys are waiting.
I know, all the time. Cubs versus Brewers. So the season series is Cubs 7-6. I believe they won that by 1 game there.
It doesn't feel like it, but okay.
They won 3. My stat could be wrong. I looked it up earlier, but they won 3 in Milwaukee, and then they did win 4 of those in Chicago. So it's pretty even based on where they're at wins wise. David and I were talking before the show here, and I was having a conversation the other day, and I was saying how if there was one team I want to face in the playoffs, it's the Brewers, even though they're the number 1 seed, because you just don't feel confident in any of their stars, right? They have Christian Yelich, but then outside of that, who do they really have? They have one of the lowest barrel rate percentages in the league. So you don't really feel that great about any of their offense, being able to beat you with big slugging homers or something, right? Mind you, what we were just talking about in the kind of Cleveland series, you don't string together singles very often. Right. Now, the Brewers are a very good base running team. They're very fast, so that puts some pressure on it. They're also very good defensively. Slugging, though, is kind of, you need to have that, right? And then also the pitching. They have Freddie Peralta. Great. Quinn Priester's been great. Will that keep up? Who knows? Chad Patrick for game 3, most likely. They don't have Brandon Woodruff. Probably don't have Jose Quintana. I haven't seen that yet, but he has a strained calf around the same time. So as Woodruff, we'll see. We'll see when that roster gets announced. He probably would start game 4, most likely. The Cubs what are they doing for starting pitching wise here?
They haven't announced it yet. I assume it'll be a Colin Ray game 1. They might just send Matt Boyd on, I think it's 4 days. But it might just be Colin Ray for game 1. But the Cubs are doing this thing. It's very Craig Counsell. They're just gonna throw guys 3 innings. Yeah. like the Colin Ray, the Javier Assad, like they're just gonna throw 3 innings, go through the order one time, and move on to the next guy. I hate this stuff. I want to be the Mariners. I want to have 4 elite starting pitchers. We do not have that at all. The Cubs have maybe 1 good starting pitcher, and he is currently hurt with a cracked rib, and Cade Horton will not pitch in this series. So it's going to be about how the Cubs cobble this together. I think it's between Matt Boyd and Colin Ray. Game 1, game 2 would probably be the other one. Matt Boyd probably goes game 2 if I had to wager. Game 3, you probably go Imanaga with potentially, like we said, like an opener or a piggyback to Javier Assad. And game 4 is probably Jameson Taillon again, which he pitched in game 3 and pitched really well, by the way. I was very impressed with Jameson Taillon in game 3. But I mean, the Cubs do not have the starting pitching advantage in this series, but what they do have is their bullpen has been excellent, and it went toe to toe with the best bullpen in this playoffs, which was that Padres bullpen, and came out on top. I mean, those guys were really good. They executed well. I think the worst inning we saw from the Cubs was Brad Keller in the last inning of Game 3, losing command a little bit, plunking two guys
which was the second inning. No,
it was the second inning, and he hasn't done a whole lot of that. So the Cubs have been excellent. Andrew Kittredge came in through 97. And he opened and gave up a run, but I mean, he came in gassed up in that last inning yesterday. I mean, I trust this Cubs bullpen weirdly, like with my life. Like I think they've put together such a great bullpen, and a lot of the moves I've criticized, like I criticized Caleb Thielbar. He's been great. Like the Cubs have like I think the second highest strikeout rate in bullpens remaining behind, and it was behind the Padres. So it's like the Cubs have the best bullpen left, which is crazy to me. I wouldn't expected it, but they've performed that well. They have the better hitters, I think, in terms of mashing. We talked about that earlier as well. You want to have that good barrel rate. You want to be able to hit the ball out of the ballpark. Cubs did that in the series against the Padres. I would say the Brewers have a worse pitching staff than the Padres do. So, I mean, I'm thinking the Cubs win one of the two Milwaukee games and go to Wrigley and sweep them and finish it off there in Wrigley. Get Cubs in 4 is what I'm thinking, and I'm going to stick with it.
Yeah, I also have the Cubs in 4. When it comes to it, I look at the offensive firepower. I'm willing to bet on Kyle Tucker. I'm willing to bet on Seiya Suzuka. I'm willing to bet on Ian Happ. As much as Cubs fans hate him, I'm willing to bet on him.
You're right. That's correct.
Michael Busch, I'm willing to bet on him being there. I just, outside of Christian Yelich, right, I don't trust. I mean, maybe even William Contreras, depending on if he's fully healthy. I trust the Cubs offense more, right? And if we're worrying about the pitching staffs going back and forth, I'm going to look at who has the better offensive firepower. It's the Cubs in this series. So I'm going to also go the Cubs in 4. Matt went Cubs in 5. So there's another sweep across the board.
I hope not. God, I hope we don't go to Game 5. I would rather lose before going to Game 5. is where I bet. It's so much.
Playoff baseball does something to you as a fan. I'll tell you what.
It is, man. You can't. It's not for the weak of heart.
No.
The Brewers. You mentioned the Brewers not having like the star power. I think a lot of us had Jackson Chourio really stepping up this season. He ended up with a 111 WRC plus.
I think I picked him as like a dark horse MVP candidate before the season.
He went 2020, but he ended up with 3 WAR. He's just not at that level.
He's got to find something.
And this could, the playoffs could be the spot, right, where he breaks out. The Brewers lineup is a lot stronger than the Padres lineup was, I think, but it's also a lot less scary. You don't have as many guys who can turn the game on its head. Mm-hmm. So for that I am confident, but it's also the Brewers, right? We've seen them all year. The one thing I do want to touch on also is that by the end of the season, Jacob Mizorowski was not in the circle of trust. He may not even make the roster to get there, which is kind of wild considering he was given an all-star appearance for some reason. But the Brewers did get Trevor McGill back because I talked up the Cubs bullpen. The Brewers have a great bullpen. They're going to be nasty. It's going to be tough to score on them. But like we talked about, the Cubs offense is the better unit as a whole. It's been that way all year. It's just the Brewers have this really good defensive group. Cubs have a good defensive group too. This is a very similar matchup as well. But if there's one thing I know about these divisional matchups, these teams are familiar with each other. So much more familiar with each other. Like the Blue Jays and Yankees are familiar. Cubs and Brewers are familiar with each other. They know how to play in the other opposing team's stadium.
Yep.
So, I trust in, the team that's kind of the better team in this case. And I'm going to not do that in the Blue Jays one until we get the word on Bo Bichette. But this is a fun set. I'm excited for it.
Yeah. As a fan of a team that went against a division opponent last year, I can tell you those games they're the most stressful because they know everything about it, right? You know each other's biggest strengths and weaknesses, and you do everything to extort those, basically. So It's going to be a good, fun series. I have it going for, though. I think at the end of the day, the firepower does matter. And the Cubs are coming off that thing of beating the Padres, who I did think was a more talented team. The Brewers have put together a better season, but I think the Padres are more talented. And going up against that, I think that's that. So anything else we want to hit on real quick before we wrap up?
I'm good. I'm excited. Playoff baseball is awesome. I'm glad the Cubs are back in it, man. And it's been fun covering it.
Yeah. So real quick, schedule starts tomorrow. There's 4 games on Saturday. Then you got 2 games on Sunday, which are the AL ones, off day for NL. They kind of go over to Monday. I think we have straight baseball all the way until Saturdays would be game 5s for the NL, and then ALCSs would start on Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
So we will have to figure out a plan of coming back for an actual date of recording. We won't record on Monday because both of our teams will be playing playoff games that day, and we will be insufferable for those. You would not have us. You would not have us our full attention.
Nope.
But just stay tuned to either our personal social medias or the Bat Flip Podcast's Twitter page, because we will we'll be going, tweeting, and you'll go live over there. Also check out, we've been doing player of the day votes for the postseason still too. Yep. So shout out to David for doing those. So go vote on those, and we'll see who gets the most player of the days through the postseason, and how it will still be Tarek Skubal anyways, because he's just incredible.
He has a chance to get another one. He did get the, well, actually, no, I don't think he actually did get the one.
Did he?
I think Garrett Crochet got it. It was close between
blasphemy.
The two of them. Ooh, we have breaking news.
Breaking news. Texas have hired Skip Schumacher as the new manager, which was expected. But we will talk about that in the off season. But yeah, so thank you guys for tuning in to this episode of the Bat Flip Podcast. And like I said, we will catch you back at some point before the championship series round.